Welcome, everybody. Beer Guys Radio. We are in the studio. Brian, it's Wednesday.
It is.
It's right now Wednesday. It's hump day, which is really a great day to get out, get away, have a beer, and have some good conversation. But we enter the world of make-believe on the show and pretend it's the following Saturday.
That's right.
So
Correct.
if you're watching the live stream, you get to see behind you get to see how the wizard works. You get to see behind the curtain that we're doing this on a Wednesday, but pretending it's Saturday for the sake of the radio show.
Correct.
Yeah. And we have Joey
Charpentier
with us today from Gnarly Barley Brewing Company in Hammond, Louisiana, which is just a very, very short drive across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans area. Correct, Joey?
That's it, man. Just about an hour north.
Good
Easy
stuff,
drive.
man. Good stuff. Well, Joey, we appreciate you joining us, man. Looking forward to learning more about your brewery. And Brian, I failed. This is a listener request. Again, I failed you for the againth time,
That's
Brian.
right. Yeah.
This was a listener request. We had a listener message us and say that they would like to hear Gnarly Barley on the show. But I failed to reference my email before tonight's recording to give a shout out to that person. So I have to go back and look. But for those watching the live stream, you got any comments, questions, please do leave them in the chat. We're going to get in here to recording our segment. We'll be back to chat with you very soon.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios. And this week, we're talking with Gnarly Barley Brewing Company. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and gnarly dude himself, Brian Hewitt.
My beard is quite gnarly.
It is.
Quite gnarly. Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Joey Charpentier, the head brewer for Gnarly Barley. We're going to talk about Baltic Porter's award-winning IPAs, charity skateboard beer, expansions, and just everything gnarly, including my beard, probably.
Yes.
Joey, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. Yeah, no, I like saying the name of your brewery. Just saying the name of it is fun.
It's a lot of fun. It rolls off the tongue.
Right? Yeah, good stuff.
I
man.
kept fixating on Gnarls Barley the entire day for some reason. So,
Gnarls Barkley?
Yeah, because there's Charles Barkley, and there's Gnarls Barkley, and then a Gnarls Barley. So
is there a Gnarls Barley?
I don't think so. I just made it up. My brain decided that was a thing. So
that's fine.
So that's something you can use if you want, Gnarls Barley.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a lot of Gnar in plenty of our names.
Okay.
The Gnar Bar. For one. We'll talk about the Gnar Bar.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Joey, are you a Louisiana native?
Yes, indeed.
That's pretty common for folks there. Like people, I know people out that have left. We got a buddy that was Seth.
Yes.
That moved to Houston, but Louisiana folks like Louisiana, right? Think we have lost a Joey.
We may have.
Oh, I'm back.
All right.
He's back.
It was a very quick second, but no, it definitely seems like if you were born here, you kind of end up if you leave, you end up coming back. But yeah, born and raised.
Okay. Yeah, I know some places like that. It's like you can leave, you'll be back.
Yeah.
When I moved out of Arkansas, people told me that. That's been 25 years ago.
So it doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work.
Yeah, you have to actually have a cool place to go back to.
That's right.
That's part of it.
That's right. Joey, what are you sipping on today?
Right now, got a little Skaterade. You mentioned it a minute ago.
Cool.
It's a beer we kind of came up with recently, but its kind of focus is we donate a percentage of that to skateboarding initiatives around the state. So just trying to help people skate.
That now I saw that talked about as like a community initiative, and I know people. I mean, skateboarding's cool. Back when I was younger, lighter, more flexible. I lived in New York, Joey, and true story, I was a New York skate punk, mohawk and all.
Oh man, that's dope.
I was always all the way in, but how is this community support? I mean, outside of just supporting skateboarding, what is the community involvement portion of it?
Well, this actually began as kind of a collab beer with a local skate park here in New Orleans. That's Parasite is the name. We just they were actually our first donation, and just kind of goes to them helping, build stuff around the park or whatever they're working on, so they can kind of keep doing their thing and keep people out there skating.
That sounds cool.
It keeps people from doing no good and doing tricks in the I don't know. What the
skateboarding is not a crime.
That's right.
Brian.
Correct.
Fact.
I believe that. I was never really a
That's
skateboarder
right.
myself. Didn't have the coordination, nor did I have the money for a board, and my parents were not going to buy me one. That was made very clear.
I was not good, but I could ride. It was my main mode of transportation for probably most of high school, until I got a car. I wasn't a biker. I didn't ride a bike. I rode my skateboard.
Yeah, I was very much into riding bikes around. The amount of bike riding I used to do boggles my mind now when I think about it. I'm like, I'm not sure how I was capable of doing it, but also much younger and much leaner. So
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense.
Those are helpful aspects
yeah,
of that.
yeah. And if I'd not stopped doing that, if I'd not fallen in love with sitting in a car and driving places, I would still be a little bit like that, but I'm not. So
now, Joey, are you a big skateboarder?
Man, used to be. I think it's kind of it's obviously a big part of our image and the company itself, but kind of all of us maybe got a little older, and that's kind of waned a little bit.
It's a little more painful the more years you get on there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird as you get older and keep falling. But,
so is your logo a wheel?
It is a skate wheel.
Okay, I didn't until we started having the conversation. I didn't even think about that, but then I was like, I think that's a wheel.
I think a fair number of questions I had are starting to come together as a result of the conversation we've already had.
Have we finished the interview already?
Yeah, we may already be done.
Joey,
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining
us. It was so nice meeting you guys.
Yeah,
cool.
man, good stuff.
Keep brewing the beer and skating.
I'm sure we can come up with more fun stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it may be time for the beers of the week, Tim.
Brian, as always, we got a great list of beers to get into today. Thank you to our friends at The Nest in Kennesaw, Georgia, for sponsoring this segment. 48 taps, some bottles, non-alcoholic cocktails, nitro coffee, Brian.
Yes.
Nitro coffee, and we used to rave on the wings, and we still do, but you got sold on the ribs there lately, right?
Yeah, the ribs, the last couple of times I've been there, the ribs have been to die for. Absolutely ecstatically good.
Plus, with the chicken wing index, ribs may be the more affordable choice right now.
That's the crazy thing. Did you ever imagine there'd be a time where you're buying ribs because they're the cheaper option?
Cheaper, yes, crazy stuff. But The Nest in Kennesaw, go check them out. So, Brian, we're currently sipping a Belgian classic right now. We talked recently about beers, kind of not really forgotten beers, but I guess beers that we started out with, maybe we don't hit as much anymore.
Yeah.
And I know in my earlier drinking days, Belgians were a big part of that. And so we've got an Orval here. Joey, how about you? Did you have your Belgian phase in beer?
It's still there.
Still there.
Still
good,
there.
Man. Good. Yeah.
It's not a phase, Dad.
That's right.
Belgian beer will always be there for me.
It will be. I think I forget it sometimes with all these local craft options, but we've got an Orval in our glass right now. We have a 750 of DuPont in the fridge that we might get into. We also have an Allagash Century Ale, a Brett Saison's, more funk there, Brian. We have a Lindemann's Cuvée Renee. Brian, you put the beer list together, and I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, unintentionally
this
very
week.
Belgian-y.
Yeah, so that is a 2015 Oud Creek Lambic Ale. We have, to mix it up a little bit, we have Against the Grain's London Balling English-style barley wine, which I really dig. And another one of these beers, maybe not forgotten, just maybe not enjoyed quite as much as we used to, but North Coast, Old Rasputin.
Yes, indeed.
This sounds like a dangerous list this week, Brian.
It is. And who knows how many we'll get through, but
yes.
I believe in us.
Nate, did we leave enough time for the news this week? All right, Brian, what's going on in the news?
Well, I love a good story about beer archaeology, and I think we all do. And this week we have the oldest beer in Latin America being recreated with the help of a resurrected 400-year-old yeast specimen. The yeast was taken from a splinter of wood from a barrel, which was taken from a museum that used to be a convent in the 17th century. I'm not sure if you followed all that, but yeah,
okay.
Convent from the 17th century. It was started by a monk from the Flemish region of Belgium, another Belgian tie-in here, back in 1566, who, in addition to brewing beer, is thought to have introduced wheat and barley to what is now the capital of Ecuador. Of course, the beer in question is more than just randomly fermenting things with ancient yeast. The research unearthed some details about the rest of the recipe, which turned out to be adjunct heavy, including such things as cinnamon, fig, cloves, and sugarcane. So, though not commercially available yet, there are plans to produce and sell it at some point in the future. I think the plans were there. COVID interrupted some of that, but eventually you'll be able to have beer that's a recreation of a 400-year-old ale recipe.
COVID been messing up everything.
Still messing
except for
things up.
lagers. Thank you, COVID, for your lager tank time.
And keeping on the Belgian train, does it seem like everybody's rebranding these days? Because according to the Brussels Time, St. Sixtus Brewery is putting labels on their bottles for the first time in 75 years. St. Sixtus, of course, is the Trappist brewery responsible for the beer often considered the finest in the world, Westvleteren or West D12. Folks on social media were quick to point out this is really not quite accurate. There was a limited edition gift pack of Westie 12 that was sold briefly back in 2012 in the US, which had the name painted on the front and a label on the back. But anyway, this is still a significant change for the brewery. They're steeped in tradition, so they don't change very quickly. So they're putting the labels on there to help people more quickly distinguish between the bottles and to give the brewery room to include information like calories, ingredients, and even a QR code. So the change is purely cosmetic. The beer will stay the same. Changes in terms of production, scale, or availability or anything like that. Just cosmetic.
Just labels. Yep. It's just labels, people. Let's
That's
not
right.
read too much into it, right?
Correct.
Where you are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, we are label free, and we'll be back very soon with more from Gnarly Barley Brewing Company. There we go.
All this Belgian stuff, purely coincidental.
Just
and
all
accidental.
came together there.
Didn't mean for this to become the accidental Belgian show.
Yeah. You know, Joey, taking a little left turn here with this. So my day job, I'm a recruiter, and I was feverishly the last 3 weeks trying to fill a position in Hammond, Louisiana. So
no way.
Yeah, and I actually said earlier, I was like, man, I'm gonna ask them if they know anybody, but we filled it a couple days ago. So so we're good there. I do telecommunications during the day. Okay. So good news if you got T-Mobile, your network's getting upgraded over there. So
I don't, but I used to.
Okay.
Like maybe I will in the future now.
Yeah.
How great of a show would this have been if you had actually recruited him out of his brewing position into a new job and he turned in notice at the end of the show?
That, I mean, for me personally, that would, man, to my company be like, wow, well done, Tim.
That's
some good networking, Tim.
Golf claps all around.
Yeah. Be good.
That would be great radio,
to the beer
too.
community and specifically Gnarly Barley's owners. I don't think it would have been as great.
I don't think we'd be welcome there.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't go over well.
No. Stephen, Pete. Stephen, always good to have you here. Cheers from Kettle Rock Brewing, Peachtree City. We were talking about you earlier today, Stephen, on Reddit. ATL Beer, they were talking about L. Smith did a beer with San Diego State University. And someone just asked the question, if Georgia schools did a beer with a college, which beer would pair with each college? And they were talking about that. So they got to talking about tech. So I had to mention that Kettle Rock Brewing, the owners, and I think it's 6, if I remember right, Stephen, 6 tech graduates there. And of course, the fellas at Second Self are tech grads. So did I see that you guys did like a collaboration college cuvee kind of beer, like bringing two together over there, Joey?
It's kind of funny that half of everyone in the state, this one period of time, was doing like kind of collabs with universities, but we did pair with the university in town, Southeastern, and we did like an American wheat with them, and it actually went over really well.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
College and beer.
I mean, they go hand in
right?
hand. No matter how much the college may not like it, they definitely go hand in hand.
They're like, guys, can we stop doing this? Really, they're like in their 3rd year before they can drink. We really should stop doing this.
We got to quit promoting this. Yes. I'm like, Come on, guys. We know what's up.
You know we're drinking first year.
That's right.
You do know this.
It's like oh no, we're not drinking at all. All non-alcoholic beers.
That's it.
Yeah, you know what? Don't they still card you to buy non-alcoholic beer, which blows my mind.
They do.
But they do
Because of 0.5 or whatever.
Yeah, so technically you'd be drinking under the age, drinking a non-alcoholic beer, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I guess like if you were in a
story about that.
About what?
Getting stopped.
I do have it. I got stories for everything.
Oh yeah,
but yeah.
You were just hanging out. As
I was
a kid.
11 and I got busted with a non-alcoholic beer. So, Joey, we went to a health food store. Me and a buddy were like 11, and we stopped in this health food store when we were out just messing around. And I remember they had a beer. Still remember to this day. It was called Texas Select, non-alcoholic beer. And at the time, they didn't care, so they sold it to 11-year-old kids. And me and my buddy are just walking down the street sharing this can of beer. Near beer. And next thing we know, a cop pulls up beside us. What are you boys doing? I think he turned the lights on actually and like came up. So of course we're like, oh my God, we're terrified, Joey. Terrified.
Totally busted.
Oh man.
But he gets out and he looks at the can. He's like, all right. He's like, I was wondering what two kids were doing walking down the street sharing a beer. He's like,
let's just let you go. Right now, you'd
yeah.
probably be arrested. I'm like, there's 0.5% of
Probably
alcohol
would.
in that. You're like, get in the back of the car.
be crazy. Having me
You'd be
walk a
tased.
straight line,
He would have stopped,
juggling.
jumped out of the car, done a shoulder roll,
Yeah.
and then tased you.
I was
and
a
then
big
thrown
kid,
you in
so
the back.
he would have had
Yeah.
to pit maneuver me with his
Oh,
car. So
yeah.
can you see that cop 11-year-old running down the street?
Authorized use of force. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
Hoo-wee.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
What fun. 6 tech grads at Kettle Rock Brewing with 12
12.
total degrees in the family. That's a lot of tech. That is a lot of tech.
Have they named a wing of any of the buildings after you yet?
Well, remember, Sterling's a rocket scientist there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So they are still down there doing their thing.
So someday soon. All right.
Soon. Very soon. Yep.
So what are we doing next beer wise?
You choose, man. You pick it out.
I was kind of enjoying the Brettsy character, so I may have to pull out that Allagash from
Okay.
2016 Brett Saison.
All right. And Joey, just an FYI for you, when we're not in the radio segments, we're flexible. So if you need to get another beer, go to the restroom, no big deal.
Okay, I got my ice chest right next to me.
You're good to go, man. He's
Yeah.
prepared, man. He's ready for it.
I missed
man.
it. Does he have a fireman's friend over there or something?
He's got
like
an ice chest.
that? Oh, an ice chest.
Yep.
He's
I-
talking about beer, Brian.
okay.
not-
I was
he's
like,
not
wait.
talking about
That's a very well. I've seen restaurants where they put ice. Then never mind. Never mind. We just won't even get there.
what's a fire. Never mind.
Nah, it's just we
Yeah.
don't need to even go into this stuff. We really don't.
That doesn't sound like what you're implying it should be for.
I-
So
Thought it was what it was called. Yeah, but anyway, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm thinking it's something else.
yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
firemen don't have to be in the car that long, so I don't know why. I mean, maybe they just want to. That's up to them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Trucker's friend,
Maybe.
I don't know.
I just could swear I've heard it called that. Okay, this
All
didn't.
right.
This didn't aggressively pop, so I'm a little worried. It being a Brett Saison.
Should have had a little snap to it, huh?
We'll see if it snap, crackles, and pops once it gets poured. All right, so the other one was a little bit more effervescent. We'll see what happens. Who wants some next?
I'll take some. I just rinsed my glass.
The Century Ale.
Man, I don't drink much Allagash, but I always dig their stuff.
Oh my! The smell is beautiful. Yeah, it looks like the carbonation didn't survive so well.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, but the flavor is
I mean,
great.
that was corked and caged up and everything.
It was, yeah.
2016, huh? All right.
Yeah. I guess it must have found a way out of the cork, though. I don't see a spot where it would have, but there's no telling it.
That's tasty, but that is one that effervescence.
That
really does.
effervescence would have helped us
It
out a
does help.
lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. See that, Bob.
I get stone fruit, some peachiness or
Yeah,
nectarine
yeah.
there.
Like a towards the pit portion of it,
Yeah,
where it gets a
yeah.
little
Pithy.
yeah,
Pithy,
I guess
pithy,
is that
pithy.
the word? Yeah. It gets interesting back in there. That's quite good. Yeah, it's a shame about the whole carbonation situation though.
Get your pick quick. Let's get back on it.
All right, I had to get a picture of this. It being as old as it is and
All
everything.
right, fair enough.
Okay, so I'm
All right,
ready to go.
let's do it. Let's do it.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand. So if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on the Podcast Park and all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to Gnarly Barley Brewing Company.
Joey Charpentier, again, Gnarly Barley Brewing Company, Hammond, Louisiana. Brian.
Indeed.
Let's start at the beginning here, Joey. What's the origins of Gnarly Barley? How did it happen?
Oh man, the origin story. Well, our lovely owners, Zach and Carrie Caramonte, family-owned brewery. They started this thing up. A couple of home brewers, and they decided to make the jump. We kind of randomly met, kind of a similar friend. Told me there's some people opening up a brewery. I was homebrewing at the time, and I just kept bugging them until they kind of gave me a job. They opened this thing up just as homebrewers, and I was a homebrewer as well at the time. And here we are now, 8 years later.
Sounds like it worked out okay then, right?
I'd say it worked out pretty damn well.
Yeah. I saw something I thought that said it was born on a stovetop during a Saints game.
That is it.
All right. What's the story there? Just like it, doing a little home brewing while watching a Saints game.
That was Zach. He was home brewing during a Saints game, and that was I can't remember which recipe, but I believe that's one of the recipes we started up with. We began with Catahoula Common and Radical Rye. Those were they opened the company with just those two recipes. We were actually draft only at the time.
All right. Now, are you there from the beginning?
I am their first employee.
Okay, good stuff.
So
that's always fun to be there as the brewery grows up, right?
Yeah, it was really interesting because like I said, mutual friend was like, hey man, these guys are opening a brewery, and I just kept bugging them. I was like, hey man, just let me come volunteer, and I just kind of kept hanging around, and they kind of started paying me. And there it is. That's their first employee, and now, kind of right-hand man, head brewing at Gnarly Barley 8 years later.
Did they hire you as a head brewer, or did they just say, hey, you're just kind of the all-around guy?
No, I was scrubbing mold off of tanks in the floor.
Oh,
I was just a home brewer. I had no commercial experience, so this was my absolute origin story in brewing outside of home brewing. So we kind of grew together as our first time in commercial setting, and boy did we learn a lot along the way.
So the name of the brewery, when I was looking into it, it's like a big surf term, and I was going to ask if you guys were surfers, but I'm thinking it really moved over into skateboarding, because I get a feeling like all of you guys are skateboarders originally, right?
Yes, indeed. Skateboarding is the background. Well, surfing's absolutely cool. I couldn't do it to save my life. I'd love to, though.
Do you have a half pipe at the brewery, at least some sweet bowls or grinds?
No, but what's actually great, we have a really nice skate park. Like, I believe it's less than 1 mile from the brewery itself.
That's pretty cool. That is. I think we have old Fourth Ward skate park here, Brian.
I think so.
I've never been because, again, that's a previous life for me, but
I'm aware that there are ones around. I looked in, where the word gnarly it was a slang term originally came from. It was surfing. You know where it came from? Well, I'm going to tell you where it came from. Unless you already know, Joey.
This is news to me. I'm all ears.
Educate us, Brian.
1960s. The thought is they came from the California coast, and it was inspired by the very gnarly pines that grow on cliffs near the coast, because they windswept, they get quite gnarled, and they started using gnarly, inspired by the trees, to describe the various waves and surf and things like that, and it spread from there. And I think fast Fast Times at Ridgemont High was responsible for kind of pushing that out into the common vernacular is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yes, for that thing. So it came from surfers in the 60s, and it's become just a word I used to hear a lot when I was younger. I haven't heard it very much recently, but I guess it still lives very much on in surfing, and I guess in skateboarding too, which I'm also not too familiar with.
There you go.
So,
okay,
there you go.
Joey, see, this is the kind of research we get when we talk to a brewery. Brian is finding the word origins of the name there.
I can't help myself. I go down rabbit holes, and that's
gnarly
one of
comes
them.
from the ancient Greek nar
To
me, and lay,
which means sweet dude.
sweet dude, gnarly, gnarly. Joey, the beers that you brewed as a home brewer, is that pretty much what you got on at Gnarly Barley, or how much transition was there?
Honestly, this is kind of 50-50. At the time when I was kind of like getting started, this was kind of the boom of your hazy IPAs and all that good stuff. But now it's like we do have a really solid like hop program there. I really love our double IPAs and stuff. But what excites me most now is lagering. And as a home brewer, that was quite difficult. I didn't really have the most intricate setup, kind of rough. So like lagering wasn't really, that prevalent in my home brewing. But now that's what's so great is I kind of getting to explore like that kind of side of it.
Yeah, we were talking. We've got a homebrew show coming up soon, Brian.
Yes,
and we were talking to some friends about homebrewing, and it has been, Brian, gosh, I guess it's been probably 5 years now since we brewed.
At least 5.
Yeah,
probably.
We used to be the guys that were brewing at least 2 to 3 weekends a month. We'd be in the garage, we'd be brewing, having a good time. But to the home brewer these days is amazing.
Yeah, especially how much the yeast availability is expanded too.
Yeah,
it's a lot more options than when we were doing it even 5 or 6 years ago.
But it's not like that we were shorted. I never felt like we didn't have what we needed to do what we wanted to do. But the yeast coming out there, Joey, I'm assuming if homebrewers are seeing these new yeast and new ingredients, there's even more, or at least the same cool and fun stuff on a commercial level. I don't know. I'll be quiet in a second, let you take this, but I know they talk about like some hops, they don't have enough to sell them commercially. So sometimes homebrewers are the ones that get first crack at the cool stuff there. But
yeah.
What is something new that you're excited about working with?
Oh man, well, there's always like new stuff coming out, right? But I mean, like the largest, I guess, like new stuff that we're using. I mean, obviously, like we're like really big into like cryo hops. I'm not sure how big that is on like a homebrew level, but a lot of like hop oil extracts, things like that, like just like direct additives you can kind of add in that kind of remove a lot of like that vegetation from hops and stuff that you just like dumping in straight oils. And I know that's becoming like bigger and bigger, and like it, as they're expanding, that's a new variety, is always trying that. I know like this year, Yakima Chief, which we buy quite a lot of our hops from, and they this year have like fresh frozen. So it's like, I'm sure you're familiar with like wet hop beers, your fresh hop stuff, and now they're just kind of have a frozen version of that. So supposedly better for like shipping and all this good stuff. So
that's pretty cool.
I don't think homebrewers are getting frozen packages of hops delivered to their front door.
Right.
Not
Back
typically.
in my day, it was pellets and cones, Brian. That's it.
Pretty much. And we would freeze them after we bought them to try to keep them alive longer, but they weren't coming to us frozen. We get lucky occasionally. Homebrew shops would sometimes keep them refrigerated, usually just on a room temperature,
hanging on a peg rack and stuff like that.
Exactly. And we didn't get born on dates on them either, really. No. It's like, you got what you got.
We did go one time and had some fresh from the field hops overnighted to us. We got that box, and the beer we made with it was just horrendous. We just did a really bad job with that one. Man.
That was wet hoperation.
It was.
Simcoe?
It tasted like mustard.
Oh,
I don't know what we did, Joey, but it wasn't right. I can tell you that, man.
Oh, but I love wet hops. That's actually this season. we're coming up. I'm actually flying up to Yakima Valley for selection in a couple of weeks.
That's fun stuff. I want to do that sometime. Media coverage. I'll have to do it
Hey,
sometime.
come
for
on
sure.
down. You
That
be
would
my
be
plus
great.
Be a
one.
good time. You are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take us another break, but we will be back very soon with more from Gnarly Barley Brewing Company. There is something in our studio that makes me stuffy.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get like one of those vapor rub sticks and turn around and look like I'm doing a little coke in between segments. Get the sinuses open there.
You think coffee would help?
No, the ginger drink does, but the
ginger,
coffee
yeah.
doesn't help too much.
Probably
so.
not. Is
I think
HBC 472? Is that one of those ones that's only available for home brewers and not on a big enough scale for? Now you know what, that can't be right, because I think I've had beers made commercially with HB 472.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with what that number means, but that's the one that's very coconutty and barrely, apparently. And
Not with that particular number, but HBC varieties. I mean, we've had every year. I mean, a hop breeding company. I mean, they're coming up with. I mean, obviously, they're always like they're kind of marrying stuff together and like coming up with new hops. Every year, we try and like follow whatever new varietals are coming out and do some experimental batches with it. And obviously, these are going to be these new cool and like eventually named hops that like Sabro and whatever that'll come out. And I'm certainly trying to get my hands on them if I can.
Yeah, that's always fun.
indeed,
I like the Sabro. I'm down with Sabro.
Sabro's cool, and this one I thought was interesting. Every time I've looked into it, I get reminded it's like it's a daughter of Neo Mexicanus and an unknown like other hop. So they don't even know how it was crossbred. They just know this came out as a descendant of the one, and who knows what else. So
that hop cone should go on Maury Povich.
Probably,
Yeah.
Only if it finds its dad, and then it should go. Well,
they do the DNA test.
Oh, they do the DNA and track him down. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, you're
Have
right.
a Fuggle setting it out there. You are not the father.
You're not the father. But I stuck by Neo Mexicanus. I really did.
Yeah.
I've been more of a father to you than that hop ever was.
Oh man,
it's bizarre.
Now I want this. I want like a show where hops are all the characters. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a glorified meme, honestly, or reaction GIF, something like that.
Do you have the attitude like the ones that are from up, in the Yakima Valley? They've got that Northwest Coast hop cone, like dressed like a lumberjack.
Oh yeah, the grunge, yeah.
One of the old classic gritty, European hops. He's like a English chav, Cockney accent.
He's wearing a Manchester United shirt.
Yeah, and starting fights with all the other hops.
Or not like a Chelsea shirt, probably more likely. But anyway,
Chelsea.
I don't know enough. I really don't know
either.
Enough about soccer.
Don't know enough
or football,
either.
as they want to call it.
Footy. Cool. All right. I still got beer, so I don't need to move on.
I feel like moving on to something. So I think it's time for we might as well stay with the Belgian-y trend, and I think that's the Cuvée Rene from 2015. Let's see, and I believe that is let's do that, and that's over in that large fridge. Could you grab that, Nate?
For all the love I have for Allagash beers, I didn't love this. It didn't age well. I mean, now it is 6 years, but it's flat. It's got a little acetone. I got that stone free fruit.
I didn't notice the acetone, but the flatness for a beer like this is disappointing.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna put it in the dump bucket.
The dump bucket, also called your mouth.
Dumped it. Blech. That was rude. That was so rude.
Yeah, that was terrible, Tim. Terrible. Yeah, I don't know about the acetone portion of it. Perhaps. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
So, Joey, I'm guessing. I will tell you, talking about hiring in Hammond was very tough because we started calling people in New Orleans, and very, very few of them wanted to cross the Pontchartrain to go over there.
Well, that's the killer. We also deal with the same thing all the time.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting spot we're in. We call it a triangle. If you look at New Orleans, Hammond, Baton Rouge, we kind of form this little triangle. So like we're kind of a little bit outside of Baton Rouge, a little bit outside of New Orleans, and it kind of becomes hard to kind of draw people outside of these two major metropolitan areas
Yeah.
to be like, hey, you want to drive for an hour at gas is $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
It's an interesting pickle we've been in before, but I don't know. We think we have a lot to offer. We have a really great team, so obviously we got to hire some good people.
Good stuff.
I was thinking
Yeah.
the Pontchartrain must be their perimeter, but sounds like that's not quite the case over there.
No. Do you know what the Pontchartrain is?
Is that a river or
No?
What is
That's
the
a lake.
Pontchartrain? Oh, the lake,
Massive lake. Yeah,
Massive
like huge lake.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'd be more than a perimeter. I was thinking
You've embarrassed me about the South twice this week. You need to. He saw someone putting peanuts in a Coke bottle, and he's like, "What in the world? Is this really? Did they just?" I'm like, "Well, you're showing that you're not from the South here, Brian."
Well, no, but the Pontchartrain, we have the largest lake, the largest continuous bridge over water. That's over Lake Pontchartrain.
See, Brian, he's not paying attention. He's busy.
Sorry, I was opening it. It's
He's
the
like,
largest.
"There's-
It was the largest lake. Something
in the world.
Something. Yeah.
Possibly in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go
Yeah.
with that. Greater than the Great Lakes, I
It is.
would assume.
Yeah.
It's bigger than the Atlantic.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I believe that. The greatest lake. There's the Great Lakes, and then there's the greatest lake. That's people don't want to go around the greatest lake because that's quite the
They're
journey.
scared. They're scared.
I would be.
I went about a decade ago to a cigar convention in New Orleans.
Oh, hell yeah. That's great.
And I have family in Mississippi, and my hotel wanted like $35 a day for parking. And I have family in Jackson, and I had just happened to see it was like $7 or something to take Amtrak from Jackson to New Orleans.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm like, I'm gonna take the train in, man. I'm gonna leave my car here and just ride the train. So I did that, and got to go through all the swamps there and along the Pontchartrain and come in seeing it. It was a fun trip, man. It was a good time.
Yes, indeed. We try to have fun down here.
Yeah, I love it. I've vacationed there.
I have enjoyed going there every single time I've been there.
Yeah.
It's always a little on the hot and humid side for my preferences, but it's just unlike any place else. I mean, there's no describing,
And I think the funnest part last time is when we thought that Voodoo cab driver was going to steal our livers. That was fun. That was fun.
I haven't had any Voodoo cab drivers.
I know I'm going to say it wrong, but this place was at the end of, I think you guys just call it Chop there. Chapatoulas?
Chapatoulas, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. So we were taking a cab from a daiquiri bar up near our hotel down to a cigar shop on Chapatoulas. And our cab driver was the creepiest person I've ever met in my life.
That does happen from time to time.
Yeah. Do you remember Seth Herman's cabbie story in New Orleans?
I don't. Not
Okay.
off the top of my head.
I'll make this quick, but this is a good one, Joey.
Okay.
I think you'll entertain this. Our buddy Seth Herman he's got promoted, so I don't know his exact title now. Maybe director or VP of sales for Creature Comforts Brewing.
Oh.
And we were talking New Orleans story one time. And he said, yeah, he was down in New Orleans one time and just, really having a good time and partied as you do there. And he went out to get a cab and he said he saw, guy driving by. So he waves, cab. Guy pulls over, he gets in, and he said he sits down and he tells him his address, or I think it may have been his hotel or whatever, that hey man, how you doing tonight? And our buddy Seth is very, very outgoing. So he's like, I just jump in the front seat. I start talking with this guy like he's my best friend. And he's like, hey man, I'm staying at the so-and-so. And the guy goes, okay. And he's like, they take off and they drive. He's like, and it wasn't close. It was like 7 miles from where we were. So he's like, he's driving along, he's chatting with the cabbie, and he gets out and he stops and he gets out at his hotel and he's like, hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. What I owe you. And the guy says, for what? And he said, or I think he may have said, you don't owe me anything. He's like, come on, man, you got to make a living. He's like, how are you going to drive a cab doing that? He's like, I'm not a cab driver. And he's like, why did you pick me up? He's like, you just look like a nice guy that needed a ride. So
the greatest. That is a great story.
Absolutely. I've done it myself.
See, yeah, it's like, okay, you look like a nice guy that needed a ride.
The next time I'm there, I'm just gonna start waving down cars.
Yeah.
I mean,
You'll lose a liver.
I'll probably lose a liver.
Yeah,
Somebody will stop. I guarantee it.
somebody will do it, huh?
I'll probably regret it. So I was gonna say your creepy cab driver may have stolen your soul. You may still have your liver, but your total soul is probably gone.
That's a good point.
Probably has it in a jar somewhere.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it. He was just real covert up about there driving around.
I feel about 15 grams lighter somehow. What is it? Or 21 or what's the anyway? That's
the weight of the soul.
Yeah. That anyway, that's just too far afield and weird. Too weird.
All right. All right, Joey, we're going to get back into actual beer talk now that we got a little diversion.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to our newest radio affiliate, KINX 102.7 FM in Great Falls, Montana. Catch Beer Guys Radio and KINX every Saturday at 6 p.m. Now let's get back to Gnarly Barley Brewing Company.
Joey, we just opened a creek over here. So we got us a little funk, a little cherry going on, a little lambic goozy. The goozy's Brian.
That's great.
When I was doing research for the show, I found a conversation you had with Beer Connoisseur Magazine.
Ooh.
And you were talking about your barley wine. I forget the name of the barley wine right now. Do you recall which one that was?
It would be awful if I didn't.
I think
Hypnic Jerk.
That's it. The Hypnic Jerk.
That was a test. I had it written down.
Okay,
so.
Gotcha. But you mentioned that if you grab that bottle of barley wine and some stinky cheese, you'd be good to go.
Hell yeah.
So are you a cheese guy? Do you enjoy a good stinky cheese?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Beer, cheese, meant to be.
Absolutely, man. Now, you know what? What would you choose to pair up with a creek? What do you think would go nice with that?
Oh my God. See, that's the problem. I don't know the names. I just grab a bunch of stuff and I just try everything.
Right. That's what we do. And we know people tune in because we're fully aware that the reason they're turning in is for hot cheese talk.
They want the cheese.
So that's why they're here, is to hear us talk about cheese.
I just love cheese. That's the sad thing. I don't really know any technical cheese stuff, but who doesn't love cheese? I just love going to we have a St. James Cheese Company in here, and I'll just go in there and that looks good, that looks good, and I'll just pile it in and pair it with some beer and see what happens.
There you go, man. And there ain't nothing wrong with that, as they say, Brian.
Nothing wrong with that.
Brian and I have recently gotten a little geeker, Joey. We created a Google Sheets document where we track our cheeses.
Oh, man, that is awesome.
Yeah.
It's mostly so we can remember what we bought and if we liked it or not.
I'll be honest. Shout out to Capella's that recently opened in Atlanta, cheese shop. And shout out to Mickey specifically.
Oh, yeah.
She'll tell us about the terroir, about the farm, about the farmer. The same stuff we geek out about hops and beer and that, she's doing it with cheese and educating us, and she lets us try everything. So, we end up, what did I spend last time I was there? $6,000 on cheese?
Probably,
I think.
Yeah.
So
they aren't inexpensive.
They're not.
So did you have a pairing in mind for this, Tim? I'm thinking like softer and funky, like a very soft and funky
I
cheese.
would go slightly different. So, Brian, Joey, check out this cheese knowledge I'm about to drop. I just learned this recently, so this is big stuff. Brian, although I see a soft and funky cheese like a Camembert that would be nice with this, I actually would probably reduce the funk level, and I'd go with a Brie that's going to be a little more mild.
Oh, that's a good.
But I think the Brie or the Camembert would be a nice pairing with the Creek.
I was thinking if I were going to come up with it on my own without doing any research, I'd go to some place like a Kroger or whatever, a grocery store that has a cheese selection, and look for one that has fruits already in the cheese, and then pick one like that without the fruit, figuring they would pair together. That would be my strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? That would work, Brian. I can't argue. As unorthodox as it seems, that seems like a solid way to go.
I'm outside the box 24/7.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Outside of the cheese box.
So, Joey, Gnarly Barley Brewing Company, you guys opened 2017, I believe, correct?
Oh no, 2014 established.
2014,
Yes,
excuse me.
indeed.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, that was it. Yeah, we just kind of got
Okay.
rolling. I mean, they were like a technically established 2014. I think it was like 2015. We were like really rolling like beer out. It was like a couple hundred barrels in 2014.
Yeah, I know a lot of little tiny nanos or even brew pubs that still, 2, 3, 400 is not
No.
uncommon.
Well,
But that said, Joey, you started off with a couple hundred, but I think it was the next year and the year after that Gnarly Barley was on the 50 list of 50 fastest growing breweries in America. Is that
yes,
correct?
2 years in a row, top 50 fastest growing. So we kind of consider like 2015 was maybe like 2,000 barrels or so, and then after that, it kind of got explosive, kind of towards the 8,000, 9,000 barrel range, which hurt a lot.
Sure.
But a lot of fun. But certainly again, I mentioned a little earlier, we're both kind of home brewers coming into a commercial setting. It took a lot of learning, some ingenuity to kind of weather that storm. Totally unexpected. Would have never imagined in my wildest dreams. I'm like, oh, like I've got I'm home brewing. I've got a 5-gallon pot on my stove, and like a couple years later, you're going to be brewing a couple thousand barrels of like some test thing you did a couple of years ago. Kind of a wild ride.
So were there any particular beers with growth like that? Maybe it's overall, but like, were there any particular beers that were kind of driving that growth, like explosive hits, or just across the board, everything was just killing it?
100% that we were doing really well. So this was kind of the origin was that we were draft only. So we started with like a steam beer or a California common type thing, and like a rye IPA. But whenever we kind of launched Jucifer, which is our hazy kind of single IPA, that was the bomb that went off. I think it was a perfect storm of people were just kind of hungry for that at the time, and we were then gearing towards packaging. So we were draft and package, and just kind of didn't expect that brand to kind of blow up like it did. So it really kind of was driven by that one brand, even though those other brands were strong. We just didn't really think that one brand could do those kind of numbers.
Is that still kind of like the beer you're best known for at this time, or is it still like a big seller, or is that split out among?
I would say that is definitely kind of what we're known for. That is the driver of a lot of the core of the business, right? For many years, I don't have any of the Nielsen data or whatever like right now, but I know for quite a while we were like the highest grossing IPA in the state. So kind of a cool, thing to achieve coming from just home brewing.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Making that flip. So what exactly prompted you to say I can do this, Joey? Going from home brewing to that, just the desire?
I would think so. It was kind of an interesting time in my life. At the time, I was laid off from a job. I was kind of tinkering around with school, but a buddy of mine just kind of called me over. He's like, "Hey, man, just come kill some time with me and like brew this beer." And I was like, "All right, whatever." I had no interest in it before, besides like my friend just kind of calling me over. And we made this beer. I didn't really think much of it. And then after it came out, I was like, "Whoa, like we made that? Like, no way. Like, it's actually drinkable." And like, I didn't like think that you could do that kind of thing at home. And then there comes the confidence for like, okay, wait a minute, let me try something else, and let me try something else. And then it was just trying stuff from like getting heavily involved in the homebrew scene here, and comparatively just being like, okay, like I don't think these are that bad, even compared to some commercial stuff. So like, well, I don't know, let's just give it a go. Like at the time, obviously, I didn't have anything else going job wise, so I just got a job at the homebrew store and kept trying to get in commercial brewing.
Just go for it. Just go for it, man.
There's something to be said about like having the first thing that you made, and it's like, oh, this resembles beer and it's drinkable. Like, wow. And had I known that was possible, I was in the same situation Joey was. Had I known that was possible 10 years prior, I probably would have started 10 years prior. I didn't think that you could possibly do something like that. I thought that was
surprise, Brian.
Big, machinery involved in that. So yeah, it's homebrewing is amazing, and it's eye-opening for a lot of people.
Now, Joey, you talked about, I think you just casually mentioned the homebrew scene there, that you had a good homebrew scene there. We talked about kind of the split there between Hammond and New Orleans, and that is Hammond part of the New Orleans beer scene, or is it its own ecosystem there?
Well, we are like fully distributing throughout the state, so I think that we're fairly tied into New Orleans. I mean, we're all over the place, on premise, off premise. But I mean, our tap room is it's certainly a different element. But I don't know, man. I feel like we're pretty well integrated.
Okay, gotcha. I know, because where I live, I'm in the suburbs, what we call OTP here in Atlanta, and there is a little different culture when you get out to the burbs where I am than there is in town. Not that either are right, wrong, different, but it does. Even 25 or 30 miles separates us enough that you'd say it's a little different culture, right, Brian?
Yeah, out there, but I think doesn't Atlanta in general kind of draw people in from the burbs? So
They do.
everybody
I
kind of
think-
participates in Atlanta.
So I think it's kind of both.
Yeah.
You know, because there's people, Brian, I know there's people both in town and out of town that they're not gonna cross the streams there.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I like
Atlantans
danger.
are crazy
so I will.
like that.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Gnarly Barley Brewing Company. I'm mumble rapped there a little
You
bit.
mumble rapped a bit.
Especially.
This is better than I remember it being. I remember the Cuvée Rene striking me before when I had it as being a little too sweetened and maybe not what I was looking for. This, maybe it's developed with time. I assume it probably has. This is quite nice. That cherry flavor there's good.
I think, is this a Lindemans?
It is a Lindemans.
I think Lindemans is
Back sweetened.
is
I think.
pretty sweet typically,
Yeah.
but yeah, this one is not. So
And I think it has a little bit to do with the fact that it's how old is it?
7 years.
Yeah, 7
2015.
years. Yeah. So that would
Joey,
probably
are
do it.
you into the lambics and the goozes and all that good funk?
There is nothing I don't like. Absolutely. It's actually the thing I think about all the time. I was like, man, it's like, for me, it's kind of like the final frontier, something I haven't been able to do myself. And I dream about it constantly.
Cool. Good. Yes, me too.
So
It's a good dream to have.
So that is that on the horizon, or is that still out of reach?
As of now, out of reach. Our focuses are kind of a little bit different. I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're opening up this restaurant across the street. We own the property there, and we're kind of shoring up all that. But if I ever had a separate facility, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Soon.
After that restaurant, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then it's lambics all day, and
All
night.
day.
Yeah.
All lambics all the time. Neon sign.
all lambics all the
Boom,
time.
boom, boom.
Oh, I'd love it.
I'd be there. I mean, it'd draw me in.
A goose is the name of it like Gooseria or something like that.
Oh man,
Just the
Yes.
place that's just all about the gooses. A little the interesting like little. I'm
They'd
thinking of the
spell it with an
Cantillon
X,
glasses.
though.
Oh, probably. Oh yeah,
Gauxzer.
yeah.
The Gooseria.
That would be great.
They say le bon temps roulé, which I'm sure I just mangled.
no, that was perfect. That was exactly.
Was it? Did I
perfect.
nail it? All right. All right. That's good. That's good, man. Man, I dig New Orleans. The food, the beer, the people,
Good stuff. Yeah.
the scenery. It's a very amazing people watching place.
Oh
And-
boy.
Yeah, I was down there, and it's a different environment depending on the parts here. Like New Orleans, kind of like Atlanta is Atlanta, Georgia's Georgia. You know, New
Facts.
Orleans is New Orleans, and I was listening to a guy talk to his wife about a grocery list one time. Like I work for an inventory company, and he was in a store, and he's like, I'd mess up, but he's like, honey, what do we need? And he's like, onions. You know, we need a tomato, onions. And I'm like, I barely understood this dude
No.
because his accent was so thick. And you know, you have a southern accent, but Louisiana hits different.
Southern and French on top of it.
Yeah,
Something that
I dig it, man.
Yeah.
Such cool folks down there.
Oh yeah, we have a very, very bastardized version of French, so it's kind of interesting
Yeah.
listening to all the dialects just within the state itself.
Yeah, yeah.
What
it's a cool
percentage of
place.
people actually speak any form of French? Is there any amount of that? I actually have never looked into that.
Dying rapidly, I would say. I'm pretty sure that is I wish I had a percentage, but I can't say it's much.
So a very small
See.
amount. So if
Uh,
it were significant, yeah, but
I
it's
mean, I would
not.
say, like, I mean, I grew up in a household that, I mean, my father, his first language was French, and like, I don't even speak fluent French. So, I mean, you can imagine how that, is moving across the state.
Two more
Okay.
generations, your last name is going to be Charpentier, right?
I think it'll just be Carpenter. I guess
Carpenter. That's
yeah.
probably right, man.
that is the actual translation, but
That's what I was going to say. I figured. We've got over here in Georgia, like coastal Georgia, and I think maybe through the Low Countries, they call it Gullah. Have you heard of Gullah or seen
No.
it? So Google Gullah sometime, but it's a language that they're trying, and a cooking a cuisine style. So there's actually in Atlanta, I forget what it's called, but it's Gullah Kitchen that kind of is trying to celebrate and keep that Gullah language and the Gullah culture alive, because it's another one. Gullah, Brian.
And it's a it seems like I've seen that. It's a language, or is it an accent?
I believe it is a language, but it sounds like a dialect. But they say it is like there's a
It's like
Bible printed in Gullah.
Like a what do they call
You
that?
ever heard of Gullah, Joey?
certainly haven't. But I'd love to. know more.
Okay, yeah, it's
what do they call it when maybe that's a fusion of different language, like a pidgin English or whatever, where you
Could be.
is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Where you kind of
I should put in a disclaimer that I do not know much about Gullah, and I could be getting something wrong, but I think it is interesting what I have seen and worth taking a look at.
I had no idea it was a thing. I'm going to look it up.
Yes, check it out.
Sounds interesting.
Cool. Joey, we're going to go into this fourth segment, and I think what I'd like to do is start out pitching your restaurant that's coming, talk a little bit about that, and then since we're creeping up on the cusp of September, maybe we talk about looking forward to those seasonal beers that are coming.
Yep, absolutely. We're just
You down with that? Let's do it.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Gnarly Barley Brewing Company.
Joey, just a quick recap for those that may be tuning into the radio show towards the end. We have covered skateboarding.
Yes.
We've covered stinky cheeses.
Yes.
We've talked about home brewing and opening the brewery, hop selection, stinky cheeses. Did I mention that already?
I think you did, yeah.
So yeah, man, we've covered it all. And now we're going to talk about that Gnarly Barley Brewing Company, one of America's top 50 fastest growing breweries 2 years in a row. They're currently involved in an expansion, correct, Joey?
Yes, indeed. That is a current goal. So without going too far into it, there are some laws here. It can be a little bit tricky, but we own the adjacent property from the brewery, and right now it's just a big giant field. But we're trying to turn that into like a restaurant, so you can kind of come to the brewery, have some food, stay, make it a little bit bigger of a thing. Because we do have like a lot of like large events. Like, I mean, we'll have events with like 1,000+ people that are just coming in, music, food, new releases, all that stuff, and it just kind of helps tile that in. I mean, wouldn't you want some food with all that good beer you're drinking?
Of course.
Sure. So are the laws such that you can't actually have the two properties connected, or?
It's more now that like what we're trying to do. So we have a certain manufacturing license to produce on this site. Now we're opening up a restaurant, and then transferring that beer kind of gets complicated and really not legal at this current point, and that kind of stuff. So now what we're trying to do is we're going to build the restaurant. It'll be standalone from the brewery itself. It's across the street. Hopefully we'll see some more laws change. We did pass some stuff recently, but trying to look to the future, grow that,
So are you allowed any self-distribution in Louisiana?
That is one of the things that we just passed. However, for us,
Cool.
that's not an option. It is capped to, if I remember correctly, that is a 5,000 barrel limit. We
Okay.
do produce considerably more than that. So this is a really big win for our smaller breweries in the state, which I love all of them. They're all fantastic. So it's like a really big step for them. And hopefully in the future we can kind of open that up a little bit more. But so for now, it's kind of the restaurant. We won't be able to transfer beer and all that stuff yet, or self-distribute, whatever. But coming soon.
Good. And I won't dwell on this too long, but that actually ties into conversation we've had recently about self-distribution. That's good that the little guys can do that, because some of them are not big enough to justify a distributor. Get it out there, make your thing happen. The cap makes sense. But again, Brian, to what you were saying, talking about opening that door, it is a tricky thing. And that's one here in Georgia, we don't have no self-distribution, Joey. So, and it is something that our wholesalers association have said they were not opposed to it, I think that they're opposed to.
They're opposed to it.
That's the piece they're opposed to. But anyhow, constant
it's
fight.
It's scary for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we love our distributors. Our distributors are absolutely fantastic. Love them to death. But we've obviously been in a lot of talks together, and I mean, it's a touchy subject for sure. I mean, we're definitely being careful with it, but I think there's some ground to gain from just having an open dialogue with them and us, and that's what we just did. We kind of changed a couple things, and I think we'll continue to keep talking, and things will grow.
Progress.
Hopefully it works.
Little
Until
steps.
then, you can self-distribute the food over to the brewery. Have people call it in and have
There
it
you
delivered.
go. Uber Eats it over. But speaking of, that was going to be my final question on that piece of it. Do you have to go through a distributor to get your beer from your brewery to your restaurant?
Well, as it stands now, that I believe that technically would be an option. I don't think we're going to exercise that option, because I mean, I could literally just be like, "Hey, come on over with the food you just bought from 50 feet away from us."
All right.
But I believe if we wanted to set that up, that would be possible.
I see. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
What kind of food you going to serve?
That is very much a work in progress. We actually are working with the city now. There was you can imagine a city and red tape. We are getting a lot of things approved. We're hoping to break ground very soon. So we don't have a menu figured out yet, but there's an amazing guy in town that's actually for our employees. Every Thursday we cater lunch for the company. That guy is going to be taking up residence in that restaurant for us.
Very cool.
Good
Maybe
stuff.
it'll be a boudin ball place, and they could call it Gnarly Balls, right? I mean, just
That's-
exclusively that.
I think that we just took care of a lot of work for them, Brian.
Solved,
So,
and
yeah.
very easy to deliver that
There you
across
go.
the way to the brewery.
They
See,
could even just have a little slide where they just roll
Just
them down there.
Roll like
There you go.
lotto balls. Just comes
You're welcome, Joey.
I'm
You're
gonna
welcome.
I'm gonna make sure they don't hear this, and I'm gonna pitch that myself.
Okay.
Yes, there you go. Good. You take it. And
That
run
works.
With it,
That
man.
works.
So, Joe, since early July, we have been complaining about the seasonal creep of Oktoberfest beers being released. What is your opinion on the allowed or appropriate time to release your fest beer?
This is hilarious because I literally was like, man, what are they going to ask? What are they going to ask? I was thinking about this today as I walked up here. And because we're literally canning our fest beer this week. And I'm like, what month is it? I was like, this is nowhere near. So it's kind of interesting how that style tends to push earlier. They originally actually wanted this August 1st. And I was like,
which is a bit late, as some people may.
Some people have
consider.
pointed out, at least locally, that's
Yeah,
far too late
yeah.
for them.
and to me, that kind of seems wild.
Right?
I
We're with you, Joey.
I don't understand it. I don't know where that original push came from, because I mean, if it's a seasonal program and it's coming in, like, I feel like, why shouldn't we just be able to dictate when that comes out? But I'd love to have some great conversations with distributors and be like, hey, can y'all maybe just push the brakes on that a little
Joey,
bit?
I got answers for you. I have
Cool.
answers. I have talked to brewers about this. So places like Sam Adams, and he mentioned one other domestic, but they put them out like July 1st. Like, they want to be first to market. So as soon as people start seeing them, they start buying them. And if you can't match the pace of the Sam Adamses and the others that are first to market, it's such a small window. You don't get your sales.
That is fair, but I don't know. But we're around the grill for 4th of July, cooking up some hot dogs and having fest beer. That sounds
Yes,
really,
I
that
know,
sounds
crazy.
a little weird to me.
Well,
But,
if it's the fest beer and not the Marzen, at least it wouldn't be too unpalatable in the heat. I'm not the Marzen. I got to have cooler weather for. Like the fest beer, that's the lighter, higher.
They're both
boozier
close
one.
enough to me that
Yeah,
it doesn't.
but
there's no delineation.
They have no
there.
business being out at that time. We
You're
need to
right.
get
No.
Sam Adams to pump the brakes. Like
Chill.
you guys need to slow down so everybody else can slow down and we can enjoy our summer
Right.
and think about our Oktoberfest during Oktoberfest.
Right.
See, down here, maybe it doesn't matter because, like, October 1st, if you want to call it, it's still 90 degrees here anyway.
Fair. Yep.
But for
So
the rest
you
of
know
the world,
what? Go ahead, Joey. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say for the rest of the world, I get it. So
Yeah.
for us in Texas and Florida, we're just like, well, it's 90 degrees anyway.
So let's, for the sake of the next part of my conversation here, let's pretend that you live in an area with seasons. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to play make believe again. And because my comment was going to be, we're end of August now. So we are getting into what I personally consider the allowable season.
Sure.
For those beers to come out. But even better than that, Joey, for me, is that's kind of the harbinger that fall and winter are coming, which is my favoriteest seasons for beer. So what are you looking forward to either from any other brewery or Gnarly Barley or what's coming from Gnarly Barley for these seasonal fall and winter beers?
Oh man. Well, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. English barley wine, one of my absolute favorite recipes I've ever done. We kind of have this now in a little rotation with I barrel age a bit of it. We release a new kind of version, and then we'll have like a kind of like a vertical situation. So we'll have like last year's this new one and a barrel aged and last year's barrel aged, and that's like right before Christmas, because maybe by Christmas it'll actually be kind of cold down here, and that is what I'm looking forward to most from us for sure.
You got to pump up that air conditioning to get the swamp cooler going, get it enough air conditioner going so it freezes the mist coming out of the swamp cooler, so you got little flurries. Then you'll feel like drinking some barley wines.
We can certainly have some very warm Christmases. I mean, I've been in shorts and a t-shirt, 75 degrees on Christmas Day, plenty of time. So it's hard to find some seasonality in drinking here, but I'm going to drink barley wine anyway, even if it's hot.
There you go, man.
Yeah, we drink stouts in the middle of summer.
Stouts
anyway.
are for summer.
That's right.
We're not going to let 130-degree temperature stop us from enjoying a good stout.
Absolutely not. We still have air conditioning. As long as we've got that, we're good.
We can make it through this. Absolutely. Joey, thank you so much for joining us, man, talking to us about Gnarly Barley. If folks want to find out what is happening, what's coming up next with your brewery, what's going to be the best way to do that?
All right, man. Facebook and Instagram, Gnarly Barley Brewing. I'm sure it's easy enough to search us out, but that is, we usually post, we have weekly releases, seasonal spot, like all the good stuff. That's where to find us.
Good stuff. That sounds easy enough, Brian.
Indeed.
Anybody could find it, even you.
Probably me.
Yes. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we learn how not to start a brewery, Brian.
Ooh.
We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so follow us for more craft beer info. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers. Clear.
I've been enjoying this this Lindemann the entire. We didn't get into one of our the barley one or the other one. We
were doing too much sipping. We didn't make it to them.
Oh, well, I'm glad we opened this.
Joey,
stuff.
Thanks, man. See, that wasn't too painful, was it?
No, that was absolutely smooth. Felt great.
Good, man. Good.
Now you're a pro.
Hang on for just a second. I'm going to clear us here on the live stream, and we'll be right back with you. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with us this week. We hope you all have a good one. We do have a show next.
Is it next week?
We do have one. I was trying to think. We got another one, right? What's today? 18th?
17th? 18th?
we got one more show for you. So
Yeah.
what I was going to say, I'm going to hold it for y'all until next week, and then we'll cover it. But thanks a lot, y'all. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.